Welcome to Ethos Studio. I have a guest in the studio this is not the first time for him, and obviously every time he comes over, we get nuggets of his wisdom about cybersecurity and generally. Kiran, great to have you on the podcast.
Thank you, Angad. It is always a pleasure to be with you, be in the presence. And speaking about cybersecurity matters, which I genuinely believe it does matter a lot. And I think the way things are going in the industry and also things are maturing, but still there's a huge gap. And today what we're going to talk about is the risk aspect of cybersecurity. What can the leaders do? What can the board directors do around this? And how can they actually improve the culture of the organization? Because a line that I use quite frequently is that the culture would actually eat the cybersecurity technical aspects for breakfast. So improve the culture and things will improve in your business.
Yeah, that's a very interesting one-liner. But before that, let's address the elephant in the room.
Yep.
There's a book that you've just written.
Indeed.
Yeah, and it's launched, all published. Very nice-looking jacket. But a very interesting title as well. Cyber insecurity. It's a little paradoxical, right? Why don't you go for insecurity?
Correct. Yeah. Look, Angad, what I noticed, so in 25 years in technology, what I noticed was that the board of directors and the executives, and I'm talking about the CEOs and the CFOs of the world, they are actually somewhere not fully equipped and educated around that. So yes, cybersecurity is technically what the book should be about. But when I've asked them the question, especially because I sit in a lot of boardrooms, and I've asked them the question around, how secure are you? How safe do you feel?
Right.
There's a huge pause. And that tells me that they are probably not sure. They're probably getting fed the information. They're probably given the comfort factor, if I can put, by those that but they probably aren't really very sure. Like hand on the heart, which is insecurity to me.
Right.
Which is what this book is about. It gives them a mechanism to get out of that pause and be confident and go, yep, we know what we're doing, we are safe. Because the feeling of being safe, that's an emotion.
Right.
The readiness, are you ready if there was a cyber attack, are you ready? That is what gives them the confidence.
Yeah, but tell me one thing, why should they even care about it? Why should they even be interested if they're in leadership roles? Why should cyber initiatives keep them up?
Great question. See, when a cyber incident happens, let's take a step back. Why is cybersecurity important, which is what you're asking? When cybersecurity incidents happen, it can actually stop the business. What do I mean by that? If there is an incident that stops operations, your revenue could stop it. It could stop right there. If there is a data breach, for example, and a customer data gets leaked, that's a trust erosion from the customer perspective.
Right.
If there's a significant amount of trust erosion, the businesses have actually shut down. So it's very clear to me, and it has been very clear to me for a very long time, cybersecurity is not just a technical matter. It no longer is. Because the impact of a cyber incident goes well and beyond just the technology aspects. It could be a ransomware attack, it could be a data breach. Everything would eventually come to the business from it basically stopping straight up.
Right.
And that's where leadership comes in. And that's why every leadership personnel, every leader in the business, every board director needs to be very much aware on cybersecurity. It's no longer a nice to have. It's a must have today.
But Dr. K, the general opinion is that cybersecurity is still a tech thing. So what made you think that there needs to be a book written about it?
Look, it's, I think one word comes to mind. It's frustration. I sit on a number of board meetings and I have seen this play out in action. I've seen the board papers put together, and they usually have a dashboard with a red, amber, green. They would have tick boxes here. We've done this, we've done that, we've done that. But what it does not provide, or it would actually have content in there that is written by a technology person, not speaking the board language. So, another example that I use, if you go to a doctor and they go to you, look, we've go look through your x-ray and look through your ultrasound, and you've got edema in your esophagus. People just nod going, okay. What does that mean? The doctor should just write in the report going, you know what, look through your report, you've got a swelling in your food pipe. And this is what we're going to do about that. I think the language is not very clear. And probably somewhere, well, two aspects to it. Number one, the technology people haven't done themselves any favor. And look, I raise my hand. I'm a technology person myself. I have been for a very long time. So I will take my fair share of I was the same. But what I've realized is that the board members don't need the technical mumbo jumbo. What they need is someone who can speak their language, can make them understand in plain English what cyber risk means to their business, which is why when I was frustrated in those board meetings going, you aren't really clearly communicating, and these people, the board people I mean, or the executive leadership team, are usually just nodding their head going, yep, understand, gives them a little bit of a false confidence. Because as I said, when I walked out of those and I've got, so after that board meeting, do you really feel safe about cybersecurity? There's been a huge pause. So it's like, I'm hoping we're going to be okay, fingers crossed. Let's hope nothing happens. We've been given all these dashboard reporting. This gives them a very clear framework. This is not a technical book at all. This is written for, I would like to say, about a 10 or 15-year-old personnel. In plain English. Gives them a framework, gives them a set of questions that they can ask their technology personnel and go, help me understand whether, if something was to happen in our business, are we secure? Are we ready? Because this is what happens. Most organizations will give you, yep, we are secure, but when, unfortunately, not if, when that incident happens, they're not ready. This is all about creating that readiness for the leadership so that they can feel confident, they can sleep better at night. Education. About giving them tools and information and a framework that they can work within that allows them to sort of be leading with confidence, if I can put it that way.
Understood. So if they have to go about quantifying cyber risk, right, what are some of the most common pitfalls that you see them make? What do they get wrong about cyber risk?
As a practitioner who's been in boards quite a lot, what I see is that because the board members don't really understand what they're signing off on, and look, in Australia, which is where I'm from, there's a personal liability associated with a board director. So if they sign off on something and something falls off, if in a worst case scenario, they are personally liable. So, and I'm thinking with the way that Indian market is going as well, especially with the amount of regulations that are coming through and so on and so forth. Eventually, I believe, it's going down that path, making people responsible and accountable for their decisions. The common pitfalls are if you don't understand what's being presented to you, then be educated enough to ask the right questions. Because ignorance is no longer bliss. In a court of law, should you be standing in front of a corporate lawyer or a corporate judge and go, hey,
I didn't know.
Kieran, what happened over here? Why did you sign this off? You can't go, I didn't know. So it is no longer a nice to know. It's actually a fiduciary duty of a director today in 2026. It has been for a long time, but now it's starting to become. I'll give you a very interesting fact. Angad. Few years ago, I'm talking probably 10. A board of director will be only worried about two things. Number one, that the company that they are actually a board director for, the company is financially viable, which means it's not trading insolvent. So it can pay its bills, it's got enough cash flow, so on and so forth. The other thing that they were really passionately engaged in was around the health and safety. So everyone who's coming to work goes back home safely, and I'm talking physically safely and mentally safely. Cybersecurity was nowhere there. Yeah. Over the last 10 years, cyber risk has now become the number one risk. Why? Because cybersecurity incidents can actually have an impact on a company's financials. Should there be a ransomware attack, they would have to, if they decide to go down the path of making a payment, which again, I do not encourage. It is criminal to pay it is actually illegal to pay the criminals, and they are. Cyber attackers or hackers are criminals. So you shouldn't be, but take your own guidance around that, and you should liaise with the legal authorities and so on and so forth. It can impact the company's financials. I've seen a lot of companies actually go under after a ransomware attack in Australia. The other one is, say for example, if there's a data breach of an employee, that then leads to certain personal challenges that come through. Let me expand that a little bit more. If a couple or parent couple, they're involved in some sort of a domestic violence issue, for example. I'm just giving a use case. Yeah. This is a lived example. It's not something I've cooked up. I've seen this happen. And one of the partners, husband or wife, or male partner, female partner, gets a legal, it's called an AVO, which is stay away from me for 5 kilometers or so. Yeah, that kind of a thing. The partner usually takes whoever's got the custody of the child, they move away. They change their names, they change, the whole life, basically around that. If there's a data breach and the other partner gets to know about where they are, then that's a risk, that's a personal risk, because a lot of people go through a lot of stuff.
Absolutely,
in their life. So a cyber, when you unpack how did that happen, and it comes back to, hey, you know what, there was a data breach in this business that led to that business is liable. So again, it could have an impact on a staff member or your stakeholder or your customer or whoever it is, their personal life. That is important. Cybersecurity incident led to that. So there is no get out of jail card, which is why cyber risk now is ranked as the number one risk for any business.
Yeah, it can have overarching effects on other aspects here.
Correct. Because it's not just about, because here is this. If a breach happened, no one just blames a firewall.
Absolutely.
You can't get out of the situation going, hey, our firewall wasn't patched.
Right, yeah.
They would look at the logs and they would go, well, where was the leadership? Right. Where is the governance? Where was the leadership? Why didn't you contain it in time? What were you doing to prevent this situation to come up?
Right, very difficult questions.
Very hard questions.
Yeah.
This book covers aspects of that. So it'll unpack that a little bit more and help you understand how can you as a board of director ask the right question so you don't get into that kind of a situation.
Makes sense. So what I understand, Dr. KK, that this is not just an IT issue. It's much bigger than that.
Much bigger than that.
Yeah.
It's actually a corporate governance issue. It's actually a business risk.
Right.
No more or less than a financial risk or legal risk, because it probably has aspects to both. You probably, when you unpack the cyber risk, you will have a component of financial risk associated with that. You will have a component of legal risk associated with that. You will have a component of your fiduciary duty associated with that. So it covers all aspects, which is why is ranked as number one risk in the world right now for corporations.
But the general opinion among most small businesses that we talk to is that that we're too small to be hacked. Like that's what they lead with. What do you have to say to them?
We hear this all the time, Angan. All the time. At Cyber Ethos, when we speak to businesses, there's a common line I hear.
Yeah.
Look, we are too small. Why would people want us? What do we have to share? Here's the fun fact. Hackers, cyber criminals, don't really care about your size. As long as you're connected to the internet and they can get to you, they will come after you. You do have customer data. You do have business data. You do have customer reputation. People can get into small businesses from a supplier perspective and be able to get into a larger side of businesses, if you're servicing B2B, for example. Another use case, another example. A very large ERP company, global, I'm not going to mention their name, but they're very large. They service large customers and also small customers. So Australian National Airline, Qantas, got breached last year.
Yeah.
The company that was impacted, that led to the major breach, was impacted by a cyber incident. Now one could go, oh, large company, done dusted. But this third-party supplier actually does service a lot of small businesses as well. Use case, that is part of my lived experience, is because of that breach, a number of smaller businesses also got impacted because they were using the same ERP platform. And when the major one got breached, they were impacted as well. No mention in the newspapers. No mention anywhere. Because when the big things happen, the media people just go after the big names, right? They'll go after the Qantas, they'll go after the Westpac, the National Australia Bank. They will go after the big players because that's what gets them the traction into the media. But a number of small businesses also got impacted. What did they do about that? How did they come out of it? I don't know. But I do know for a fact that if a business owner or a board leader thinks, or board member thinks, we're too small, please take my advice. Break that bubble. If you're living in a belief that you're too small to be cyber criminals' interest, I'm going to make a very bold statement. You're living under a rock in 2026. Please get out and have a look, because these cyber criminals have no ethics. They will go after, if you're connected to the internet and you're a vulnerability, and you offer a small gap for them to come in, they will. Because it's a numbers game for them. They would just try and go into after 20 people, even if they get a small piece out of you,
right.
they'll keep on coming. You have to make sure that you are taking cybersecurity seriously. Another example or metaphor. We all have lived through COVID-19. Did the coronavirus actually differentiate between person A to person B?
Of course not.
This is no different. If you're a business, if you're an individual, if you're connected to the internet, you are a target market for them.
Right.
And it's only a matter of time. It's not if, it's when. I mean, I know I'm using the cliche, but it's true. It's only a matter of time before they actually come after you. So be ready.
Let's say I'm a small business owner, or even like a board member in a medium-ish organization. Do I need to understand tech in order to manage cybersecurity?
No. And actually, if you don't understand tech, that is great news. Because one thing you will do, you will go in there trying to understand what the risk is. The idea for you is to not understand technology, not understand how the zeros and ones work, not understand how the firewall works, not understand how the security. I don't want you to understand any of that. That's not your role.
Right.
Your role, you're doing your duty as a director if you ask the right questions. And that helps you understand, as a reasonable person, what the risk could be for the business. Don't look at it as a technical risk. So here is the question that I suggest you, if you're a board director or an executive leader who doesn't come from a technology background, which is great news, ask your CIO or a CISO or an IT manager. Don't ask them, are we safe?
What do they ask them then?
Because, so I rather want you to ask three sub-part questions. Number one, if a cyber incident was to happen, what business operation will stop? So if it was to happen for a week, what will stop? 2, how ready are we to come out of that situation? So how quickly can you resurrect or remediate or bring me back to the business as usual? So whatever the situation was before, something happened in the moment of time that broke that bit. How quickly can you come back to the business as usual situation? So ask that question. 3rd, how, from a readiness perspective, have we tested and tried this before? So here is this, typically in Australia, I know this happens quite often, is corporations and companies, doesn't really matter, small, big, large, small, medium or large, go through a fire drill. So they will simulate there is a fire in the building, everyone evacuates in a systematic manner, then they come back to the building. It's a muscle memory that it builds within you. A board director should ask, do we have that muscle memory if a cyber incident was to happen today? So 3 questions. Once again, replaying what I just said. Number 1, if this thing was to happen for a week, cyber incident, what business operation will break? Number 2, how quickly can we come around from there and come back to business as usual? Number 3, have we practiced this before? How confident are we? Because if you don't ask these questions and just ask, are we safe, and they give you yes, it's like going to a CFO and going, hey, are your systems working? Can you generate a profit and loss for me? Does your calculator work? Redundant question.
Right.
Right? Because they can say yes, no, what does that actually even mean? Ask the pointy questions.
Yeah. Like, coming to that, again, a very popular opinion, very consistent opinion among most companies is that we're compliant, so we're fine.
Yep.
Is that a risky thing to be thinking about?
100%. I think if you're just having that compliance mindset, it doesn't address the risk. Because compliance is a moment in time thing, number 1. Think like a hacker for 1 second, a cyber criminal, right? They would, if you publish on your website going, hey, we are compliant, does it stop them?
No.
No.
Of course not.
No, they'll just go, so what? Big whoop-de-doo, we'll just keep trying.
Yeah.
Right? So if you think if it's a set and forget, like we got our compliance, we got our tick in the box, we got all that.
Yeah.
A moment in time, yes, it gives you warm and fuzzy, that's really good. And it probably gets you your license to operate. It continues with that. But it doesn't take the risk away.
Yeah.
So it's something that you got to constantly keep a finger on the pulse, because when things change,
Right.
if you don't have your finger on the pulse, it may be too late to do anything about it. I don't want to directly link it back to cancer, but that's the closest metaphor that comes to mind right now. Is if you catch it early, you've got a chance to get out of it.
Yeah.
And minimize the damage that it does cause.
Right.
If you leave it for too late, then the chances of recovery, number 1, not saying it's not going to happen, it will happen, it can happen, will take a lot longer. And the effort and the resources and the cost will be significantly higher. So it's easier to catch it first. Just because you're compliant, please don't. Again, I'm a full advocate of a compliance aspect. Please continue with that, but don't just think that's a risk remediation.
That's just the bare minimum.
That's a bare minimum.
Right.
If you're managing risk, it should be something that should be done on a monthly basis. Your IT person should be managing it. Your IT CIO or IT manager should be managing it on a weekly basis. The person who's actually doing the job, or your IT MSP, should be managing or watching it daily. So it comes back from that daily, weekly, monthly, up to the risk. For the risk perspective, up to the board, sorry. Yeah.
Dr. KK, you talk about supply chain attacks a lot. Even in our previous conversations, there's been a lot of focus around vendors and partners that companies choose to work with.
Yep.
And the last time we had that conversation, you touched on the fact that it's kind of a blind spot. Can you elaborate on that right now?
Yep. It's a blind spot, 100%. I think we last spoke a few months ago on that, and because of the amount of visibility or the pressure point on the suppliers now, they're starting to understand that, look, it's important for them to uplift their game and so on and so forth. But the challenge, I want to restate what I just said earlier in the interview. If you engage a third-party supplier and there is a incident that happens in their environment that involves or impacts your business, you still have the leadership and the responsibility and the accountability to manage that, because your customers aren't going to go to your third-party supplier and go, hey, you've had that happen. They will look at you going,
of course,
you are our supplier. What are you doing about that? Right. So it's up to you to manage your third-party supplier as well. That's one. 2, when was the last time you actually went to your third-party supplier and said, can you show me what is your cyber posture? And if there was an incident that was to happen within your environment, how quickly can you respond? How quickly can you communicate with me so I can communicate with my customers? So here is the moment of truth, and I'm really passionate about this stuff. As a business, if you're impacted by a cyber incident that happened to your third-party supplier, your customers are expecting you to be doing two things. Number one, very, very important. Communicate with them what has happened, what are you doing about it, and what is the impact to them, and then fourth, when will things come to normalization?
Yeah.
They're expecting you to answer these four things immediately or as quickly as frequently as you can. Number two, they have an expectation that you are managing your suppliers really well as well. Same way as they have that expectation on you, they expect you to have that expectation on your supplier as well.
Right.
So it's a back-to-back kind of a thing. If you are actually not fulfilling that role, there's a loss of trust.
Yeah.
Because when people give out their information, they give it out on a trust aspect for it. And trust is one thing, once it's lost, it takes very long time. Sometimes it never happens for it to come back.
Right.
So those are the two. So coming back to your initial questions, what can the businesses do? Ask your third-party supplier, what have they really done to improve their cyber posture? If I go a little bit technical, ask them, if they're a cloud-hosted solution, ask them, have they done the penetration testing on that environment? Can they share with you the SOC 1, SOC 2 reporting? Can they give you the assurance that if there was an incident that you will be communicated to? They probably may not share the incident response plan with you, but ask them to go, can you simulate? Can you simulate on, pick a date, 2 months in advance. Go, on this particular day, I expect you to give me a call and say, we are simulating that there has been a breach. Here's what we are telling you. Can you progress with? It's that muscle, building that muscle memory. So
it's like exercising.
Exercising.
Yeah.
Building that memory up so you know that if something was to happen, this is not new to you. Most organizations that I see, when things happen, it's the first time they're dealing with it.
Yeah.
There's panic. There's, I don't know what I need to do. There's a bit of, I need to get all the information before I can make a decision. Yeah. That's the worst situation to be in because time is of the essence at that time. I rather your listeners and the businesses make decisions fast because they're comfortable in making those decisions because they've done that before in the safe environment, in the simulated environment. So they know if this was to happen, what should they be doing about it? They should be calling their customers or communicating with their customers. They should already have the pro forma ready going, dear customers, just letting you know we've had a cyber incident with us, our third-party supplier. This is what they're doing. This is what we come. Have those documents ready.
Right.
All that you need to do is fill out the situation that this is where, because if the news comes out in the media before you've communicated to your customers, that's it. You'll never, ever get in ahead of the 8 ball. Yeah. Never. So it's better for you to have those artifacts ready, test them out, and be ready with it. It's not just about the cyber incident management, Angad. It's about communication. Yeah. There may be a legal aspect to it. There may be a media aspect to it.
More often than not, there always is.
100%. So while you've got the CIO and the CISO dealing with the go fix this issue with the vendor, you still need to have the other team members communicating with your business.
Correct.
Because again, if you're not doing that and if you're just doing this, there's silence. People are getting anxious, your customers are getting anxious, they're now losing trust in your business.
Right.
So whilst you may come back and resurrect that within a week, for example, I'm saying, sometimes it takes a lot longer than a week usually, but assume you have got a golden run, you come back within a week, you haven't communicated with your customers during that period, that's it, game over, go home.
Yeah, and usually that is the reaction that you see among companies like post an incident, right? Polar opposites, either full-on panic or pin drop silence.
100%.
Both amazingly wrong approaches.
100%. You need to be somewhere in the middle. Life is about balancing. So make sure, and the only way, the reason people aren't able to balance because they don't really know what is the sweet spot. Where should they be operating? Because they haven't practiced it before.
Exactly.
It happens to them 90% of the times. The first time they experience this kind of an experience is when the incident is actually real incidents going on. Yeah. And I've seen a lot of people, Angad, they lose their sleep. The business owners I'm talking about, or the board of directors, because they know if it's a big thing, they're personally liable.
Yeah.
They haven't done, and you can't get out of jail at that time. And I'm using this as a metaphor, not literally, but you know, in past, in corporate America, people have actually I mean, was Google CEO, or Google CISO, or Uber CISO, someone like they've actually experienced a significant amount of personal liability associated with it. Please take this seriously. Please go through simulation processes earlier on. Do not wait for the incident to happen, because otherwise it'll be very hard for you to get in front of the 8 ball.
So during a cybersecurity incident, who do you think should actually be in charge?
Great question. It's for the organization to decide. Usually I would say, if I paint it as a broad brush, I would go leadership.
Yeah.
But what does that actually mean, right? In a cyber incident response plan, the plan should really articulate who calls the shots, what shots do they call, and when do they call them. So it should very clearly articulate who's in charge operationally, tactically, and strategically. I'll unpack that even a little bit more. You're touching on a topic I'm really passionate about, because it's an area that most organizations aren't even starting to scratch the surface, and it's so important. It all comes back to, where is the risk to the business? So say, for example, if there is a data breach, there is a legal consequence to it, a communication consequence to it, and probably a privacy breach consequence to it. Because if you're in Australia, I'm pretty sure if you're in India with the DPDPA as well, there is a significant privacy obligation. In Australia, you've got to respond and communicate within your customers, if it's of a certain size, within hours. You don't have days. I'm talking 48 to 72 hours. You need to report back to your customers, letting them know that their data has been breached.
This is the right thing to do. Like, hours or not, this is the right thing to do. Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
But there are now privacy obligations on the businesses. If they don't do that, whilst they're dealing with the cyber incidents, there now is a government fine coming their way, majorly. And their license to operate could be put on hold.
Correct.
So they could stop operating. The whole organization could fall down like a deck of cards.
Yeah.
Very fast. I've seen it happen from lived experience perspective. So it's important to know who's in charge, as in define that. Business owners, it's your decision. It all depends to what your risk profile is. So who makes the decision? In most situations, a CIO or a CISO, if you have them, will make a decision around when to call the shot. So when will they go, here's a disaster, I'm calling it a cyber incident, this is what, so technically they will be coming back. But typically, a chief communication officer, a chief risk officer, or even a CFO, a chief of some nature, a chief officer of some nature, even a CEO or a business owner will actually make that decision. It then also reports back to the board. The board needs to be aware what happened, when did it happen, what are we doing about it, when are we going to come to normalization. So they will ask you. The book tells you all about that.
So coming back to the book, like, is that who you really wrote it for?
It's specifically for board directors and executives who are non-technical people.
Nice.
I'm very clear on who this book speaks to. So if you're a non-technical person, you don't understand, I've got edema in my esophagus, that kind of language, but you understand I've got swelling in my food pipe, then this book is for you, from cyber perspective. It's written in plain English. A 10-year-old or a 15-year-old can read this book and get the framework and ask the right questions. It's written from a perspective that you know nothing about technology, but you have the questions to ask. And the answers that you're going to get are going to be specifically, or you can demand them as a board director or as an executive leader, is I've asked you a specific question, I want the answer in that particular language that I can understand, I want that. And this book clearly articulates what that looks like.
All right, we're coming to the end of the conversation, Dr. KK. If there's one message that you want to send across to our viewers and listeners, what would that be?
One message is, please be aware, cybersecurity incidents are no longer a technology matter. They are a business matter. It could make or break your business within hours, if not days. Please take this seriously. Look at it from the risk lens, not just compliance. If you are able to maneuver through that relatively quickly, then that's in your best interest. A line that I would like to use is, the sooner you as a board director or a CEO or a CFO or a business owner understand that, the lesser media or communication headlines you will have to explain.
Very well put. I've got another message to add to that. Buy this book.
It's available on Amazon.in. It's available on global publication websites and book buying websites. Amazon globally, it's available. But here is this. I'll do you a special. Go to www.kirankewalramani.com. So it's www.kirankewalramani.com. We will put the link in the. I'm hoping we can put the link over there.
Absolutely.
And you buy it from there, and we will throw in a consultation for your board members in there for absolutely free, and we'll give them an education session around that.
That's very kind, Dr. KK. Lovely as always having you over here. And if it's not too much of a bother, can I get a signed copy?
Please. I'll get you a signed copy right now.
Yeah.
Look, thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed. This is something I'm really passionate about, and great to be in the studio, Zangud, with you. It's always a pleasure, and I look forward to good things.
All right. Thank you, Dr. KK. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah.